All right, before we begin, I'd like to review some guidelines so everyone can participate and get the most out of this session. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube, then linked to Telegraph Road Walkway Phase 2 webpage. Microsoft Teams does offer a live captioning service. You can find that by clicking the three dots labeled More, go to Record and Transcribe, and click on Show Transcript. Once the presentation is completed, we will begin the question and answer portion, during which participants will ask their questions aloud. The chat features has been disabled for this meeting, so we will not be taking written questions. If you're on the phone, please hold your questions to the end. We will have instructions on how the questions at the conclusion of the presentation, on how to ask questions at the conclusion of the presentation. We also encourage you to submit your comments to today's meeting using the online survey, written feedback via email, or phone call. We'll have addresses for you at the end of the presentation. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce Supervisor Rodney Lusk from the Franconia District to open this meeting with brief remarks. Supervisor Lusk.
Thank you very much, and I'll start by saying thank you to everyone who is here participating in this session. It's really important, and we acknowledge your interest in this project. I just want to note that this project has been one that has been going on for a number of years, trying to complete the segment of missing sidewalk along Telegraph Road. This is the fourth in a series of sidewalk projects to help us address that length along Telegraph from South Kings Highway, and really look forward to hearing all of your thoughts and concerns here with the presentation and with regard to the project, and want you to know that we will be taking this very seriously as we move into the next phases. So thank you very much for being a part of this public hearing.
Thank you, Supervisor. I would also like to introduce the FCDOT leadership and staff project team. The team is headed by Sayed Nabavi. He's the chief of the Transportation Design Division. Myself, I'm Mo El-Casey, project manager for this project, also with the Transportation Design Division. Laura Gosh, she's the section chief with the active transportation section. Tad Borkowski is the planner for the in the capital projects section. And Nick Alexandro, he's the planner 3 and project manager from capital projects section. Also, we have our design consultant, Sean Fielding. He's the project manager with HNTB, and he will be starting the presentation now. Sean, if you could please share the presentation. So this is the Telegraph Road Walkway Phase 2 from Pike Road to Florence Lane. And this is the virtual community information meeting. As I mentioned, the team is divided into two. We have the design team headed by Sayed, myself, and Sean, and then we have the planning team headed by Laura, Tad, and Nick. So for any design questions, please address those to Sean, myself, and Sayed. Any planning or scoping questions, please direct them to Laura and her team. In today's agenda, we will have the introduction of the project team, which we just did, the project discussion, which includes meeting purpose, project background, purpose and need, existing conditions, proposed improvements, project impacts, project cost estimate, funding, and schedule, and we will end it with question and answer. Next, please. So the meeting purpose today is to provide an overview of the proposed improvements to the Telegraph Road from Pike Road to Florence Lane, and to solicit feedback from the public to be considered during final design plan development. Tonight we will answer questions, but also please consider submitting comments in writing. Sean will be taking the presentation from here and presenting the project to you. You can go ahead, Sean.
Thank you, Mo. In order to get us oriented around the project background, I wanted to go over just a few data points. This project was originally put together as a single project between Mission Court to Farmington Drive, but it was broken into 3 separate segments or phases. Phases 1 and 3 are complete and were completed in July of 2020. Phase 2, which is the portion between Pike Road to Florence Lane, is ongoing and is the subject of our meeting tonight. Again, to help us get oriented, you can see here on the map the quadrant of just outside the Beltway where the project is located. You can see that highlighted in orange and labeled as Telegraph Walkway Phase 2. Phases 1 and 3 of the project, as I mentioned, are already complete and are labeled in red and the light blue color. What we want to point out here is how important this connection can be to various amenities of this area, including Huntington Metro Station, Jefferson Manor Park, the Franconia Rec Center, and even provide some long-term connections to the Fairfax County Parkway Trail. The project's purpose is to provide a safe infrastructure for pedestrians on Telegraph Road, to improve connectivity to transit stops along Telegraph Road, to allow residents of the communities along Telegraph Road to safely access those amenities that were mentioned a minute ago, and to provide a key connection to the county's active transportation network. Today, there is no sidewalk present between Pike Road and Florence Lane. As you can see here, the Phase 1 project extends from Pike Road to the south or west, and Phase 3 extends from Florence Lane to the north or east. And again, there is no sidewalk present between these 2 intersections today. Telegraph Road today is a 2-lane roadway. It's classified as an urban minor arterial. It has an average daily traffic of about 1,800 vehicles each day. It is primarily residential and land use surrounding the project footprint. There are 2 bus stops within this section of sidewalk that we are referencing today. And there is today present intermittent curb and gutter both on the north and south sides, and there is intermittent sidewalk primarily on the north and up and downstream of the project on the south. I'm going to run through just a series of photographs of the roadside, courtesy of Google Street View, which means they are a little bit dated. They were taken about a year ago by that service. And you will see effectively what the existing condition is of the roadway. But please note that there is some active work going on in this area around Pike's branch, the waterway, where some trees on the side of the road and some work is actively being prosecuted today. And so some of these images are somewhat out of date. You can see here that we are looking towards the east. We will be looking at images running from the west to the east towards the Beltway or towards the metro station. North is to the left side of your screen. You can see on the left side of your screen or the north side of the roadway, it might be a little hard to see in the upper left-hand quadrant, an existing asphalt pathway that does run along Telegraph Road through this segment. However, note that asphalt walkway is not ADA compliant today. There are several areas of relatively steep slopes, especially at several existing driveways. And you can see the existing condition of the road here on the south end of our project. Subsequent images will slowly move us towards the east, and again are just to orient us as to what the condition of the roadway is and the roadside conditions on each side. You can see here guardrail on the right side of your screen. This is adjacent to Pike's Run. And on the left side of your screen, you can make out the handrail that is protecting that asphalt pathway and the kind of long high drop down to Telegraph Road on the left side of your screen. Here you can see the guardrail again on the right side, and one of those driveways that is creating a steeper slope condition for that existing asphalt path, and is one of the items that is making that not ADA compliant, though a very good trail for the community. That path is still present on the left side, though it is somewhat obscured by the vegetation and the fallen leaves here. But the guardrail is now gone. You can see the private fences on the east side. Similar here with fences on the east, no curb and gutter, no guardrail as we move towards the northern end of the project or eastern end of the project. Similarly here. Here we're approaching Wilton Road, which is a intermediate intersection in roughly midway through our project footprint. We will have new sidewalk and a high visibility crosswalk, and I will cover some of those details in a moment on the proposed condition. As I've mentioned, most of our work is happening on the east side, or on the right side of your screen, excuse me, of Telegraph Road as we are looking east. Towards the eastern end of the project or the project terminus, curb and gutter is present on both sides of the road, and we will be adding sidewalk behind the existing curb and gutter. You can see that asphalt path still present on the left side and some of those residential properties on the right. And this is effectively the terminus of our project at Florence Lane. And that asphalt sidewalk or asphalt path is still present. And this will be the terminus with a new crosswalk crossing Florence Lane. So the project improvements are to provide an additional 1,400 linear feet, meaning measured along the length of the roadway, of 5-foot wide sidewalk with a 4-foot wide grass buffer strip between the roadway and the sidewalk. In addition to the 1,400 feet mentioned, there is 495 linear feet of 6-foot wide sidewalk, and about half of that is going to be abutted to the curb, meaning with no grass buffer strip. This is primarily due to a desire to avoid additional impacts to the waterway that we are adjacent to on the south side of the roadway. We will construct curb and gutter along the sidewalk. We will provide an additional about 100 feet of guardrail where protection is necessary. About 500 feet of retaining wall will be used in order, again, to protect the waterway that is adjacent to the project. The sidewalk construction will require 4 additional ADA compliant curb ramps at 2 new high visibility crosswalks, along with the accompanying pedestrian crossing signs. Additionally, we will mill and overlay or repave the north or eastbound lane of Telegraph Road, which is adjacent to our work on the south side. We will provide drainage improvements as necessary with the new curb and gutter. There is an existing double cell culvert, meaning 2 chambers of structure that allows Pike's branch to run from the north to the south side of Telegraph Road towards the western end of our project. That culvert will be repaired and the new head wall will be constructed to permit our project. We will remove and reset an existing bus shelter that is located near Pike's Road on the western end of our job. And there are other incidental associated improvements such as seeding and restoration of grass, utility relocations, etc. And I will cover some of these going forward. Again, our proposed condition just in a visual format between Pike's Road and Florence Lane, constructing those improvements as I've laid them out, sidewalk with buffer strip where possible, high visibility crosswalks at each crossing, and about 500 linear feet of retaining wall along Pike's branch to protect that waterway. We'll be running into some more detailed views, zoomed in a little bit to see some more detail of what it is our project will entail. You can see here we are at the western end of the project at Pike's Road. The 5-foot concrete sidewalk with buffer strip is present at the very western end of the project. And then there are sections on this portion where we abut the sidewalk to the curb and gutter in order to reduce our impact to that waterway, which is Pike's Branch. The retaining wall here is also there to protect the waterway and avoid environmental impacts. Here, the culvert extension can be seen as labeled. You can see the label of culvert repair/extension at the bottom of your screen with the leader pointing to the location of that passageway for Pike's branch to run underneath Telegraph Road. As we move towards the east, our work will provide continuous sidewalk with buffer strip from that point on. We will rebuild and restore any impacted driveways to the residential properties that are adjacent to the work. We will provide a new high visibility crosswalk across Wilton Road. And you can see in that image on the right side what that means, what a high visibility crosswalk is. It's that pattern of transverse stripes across the road. This is the terminus of our project at Florence Lane. Again, continuous sidewalk and buffer strip will be provided. Again, rebuilding and restoring driveways that are impacted to the residential properties, and the new high visibility crosswalk across Florence Lane. Going to provide a similar but a little different view and somewhat tighter again to try to get a little more detail for everyone's perspective. Again, we're starting at the western end and moving to the east. You can see the bus shelter that will be removed and reset onto an improved bus pad. You can see the retaining wall called out. The culvert extension is there at that mark that is in between 103 and 104. That section is also the sidewalk that is abutted to the curb without that buffer strip in order to reduce impacts to that waterway. Here you can see a proposed permanent retaining wall easement that will be applied to this parcel, which is owned by the Board of County Supervisors. That easement is primarily for access to the culvert to provide long-term future maintenance to that culvert. Moving towards the east, the sidewalk abuts the curb and gutter again between marks 106 and 108. That is again in order to reduce our impact to Pike's Branch and other elements that are against the roadside. Grading will be as tight as possible, and in areas where the grading goes beyond the existing right-of-way, we will propose temporary grading and construction easements that are highlighted here as that green dashed line and labeled as such. Those easements, the temporary construction easements, will expire at the termination of the construction project. So they are temporary impacts. Any disturbed area within that will be restored with topsoil and grass seed. Moving towards the east, you can see the crossing with Wilton Road, the grass strip and sidewalk, and curb and gutter. All the improvements are shown in that pink color, and the ADA ramps crossing Wilton Road. And again, all of these residential properties will be impacted by that temporary construction easement, which is again highlighted in green. But again, that property reverts and that easement expires at the termination of the construction project. All of our physical improvements so far sit within the existing right-of-way on the outside of the property boundaries, the private property boundaries. Here at the very eastern end of our project, the same is true. There is except for a relatively minor impact at what is called parcel 48 there at the end, there is a slight strip, which I will highlight in a moment, of right-of-way impact, which is a property purchase. Here, the curb and gutter ends at around mark 119 because that's where existing curb and gutter is already present along Telegraph Road. We will improve the crossing of Florence Lane with a new high visibility crosswalk and ADA compliant ramps to improve access throughout. And of course, rebuild driveways and restore grass anywhere that is disturbed. This is kind of a zoomed in view of that parcel 48 so that we can see the one right-of-way impact that we have. It's that blue shaded area. It equates to right around 46 square feet. It is a relatively narrow strip and creates a property line that is parallel to the roadway center line. There are 6 total residential parcels that are impacted. Only this one with right-of-way. The other 5 parcels, as I've mentioned, will have temporary construction easements with a grading agreement. This is each parcel laid out. And again, just to highlight that we have a relatively minimal impact as far as right-of-way goes, just that 46 square feet for parcel 48. Easements, the only permanent easement we are proposing is applying to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors property towards the western end of our project. All other easements are temporary for construction. Our proposed condition in cross-section view will look something like the image on your screen. We are building curb and gutter, a utility strip or grass buffer strip. Those are equivalent terms, with a 5-foot sidewalk throughout the majority of the project. Where there is a need for a retaining wall, we will have a 6-foot sidewalk with the retaining wall to allow for better bike usage, to have a little bit of extra space for bicycles. And the buffer strip in these areas will vary between 4 feet and 0 feet, where the sidewalk abuts the curb and gutter in some areas. Where it abuts, it will look something like that, where the width of the sidewalk begins to vary, but it will attach directly to the curb and gutter. All of the roadway improvements will be eventually maintained by VDOT. The only county maintenance items will be the bus pad themselves, the bus pad itself, and the bus shelter and bench associated with that bus pad. All the other elements will be transferred to VDOT for state maintenance. The bus stop, as it is today, is shown on your screen. This will be improved as curb and gutter will be run along it, and it'll need to be raised to meet that grade. So we will replace it with an upgraded 25 by 9-foot concrete pad. The bus shelter will be relocated to that new pad, and the bench will be relocated if necessary as well. This is a picture of the existing double cell culvert as it is today. This culvert, as I've mentioned, this head wall that you can see, which is the concrete walls that stretch from either side of those open cells, will need to be removed and replaced with a minor extension to the culvert itself. The culvert will be repaired for any damage to provide for a long lifespan. The project does anticipate several utility impacts, including 1 light pole, 3 overhead utility poles, around 200 linear feet of water main, with their associated 4 water meters, 4 water valves, and 1 fire hydrant. About 150 linear feet of Washington gas line will be potentially relocated, and 800 linear feet of Verizon fiber optic line. Going through some of those utility impacts, there is this utility pole that needs to be relocated. This is a Google Street view looking to the northeast from the northbound lane of Telegraph Road. And this is towards the western end of the project near Pike's branch. And many of these trees have been removed for the stream restoration project that is ongoing today. That fire hydrant, again, I mentioned previously, will also be relocated, though very similar to its present condition, just moved back to behind the proposed sidewalk. There will be some tree loss as we build the sidewalk and the curb and gutter. We could not give a detailed estimate at this time. As I've mentioned, the stream restoration project is changing the condition out there today, but a formal tree survey will be prepared during final design. The cost estimate for this project is on the screen. The design estimate is around $2 million. The right-of-way estimate is around $250,000. The utility relocation is expected at about the same at $250,000, and the construction is estimated at around $6.3 million, with a total cost of $8.8 million. This project is county funded between the capital project transportation improvement funds from the 2014 bond and commercial and industrial C&I tax revenues. It is funded today through final design and right-of-way/utility relocation, and funds for construction are anticipated to be available prior to construction award. The anticipated schedule of the project is for the design to progress to the intermediate phase in the winter of 2026. Final design will be completed by the winter of 2027. Right-of-way and utility relocation will begin at that same time in the winter of 2027. Right-of-way and utility relocation is expected to be complete by the fall of 2028. Construction is expected to begin in the fall of 2028 and is expected to be completed by the fall of 2029. As noted on the screen, the schedule is preliminary and is subject to change depending on various factors. At this point, I'll turn it back to Mo to discuss next steps and to address comments and questions today.
Thank you, Sean. So the next steps will be receiving the public comments on the improvements by Friday, June 20, reviewing and addressing the comments, finalizing the design, which would include closing out the preliminary design, which is the 30%, the current 30%, completing the intermediate design, which is 60% design, continuing to final design, which is 100% design, proceeding with right-of-way and utility relocation and construction phases. Next, please. If you have any questions or comments after you leave tonight, please visit the survey link below through June 20 at publicinput.com/Telegraph Walkway. This presentation and the recording will be posted on the following project webpage, which is the www.fairfaxcounty.gov/transportation/telegraph-road-face-II, which is the number 2 for Telegraph Road Walkway Phase 2. Now we would like to open the meeting up for questions and comments, and here are the instructions. Click on raise your hand icon located at the top of your screen next to the 3 dots. We will enable your microphone and call on you to ask your question. If you are on the phone, press *5 to raise your hand. We will enable your microphone and call on you to ask your question. So please raise your hand and we will enable you to access the microphone.
Okay, so Alexis Glenn, please go ahead, unmute yourself and you can speak.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I have a few comments. I think for the design team, I saw that you are planning a 4-foot buffer and a 5-foot sidewalk for the majority of this phase, I think. And I wanted to suggest considering a smaller grass buffer on those sections for a couple reasons. One being that a 5 feet wide sidewalk is not really that wide if you are passing someone, if you are pushing a stroller on a bike, on another mobility device, walking a dog. And when there are grass buffers on sidewalks, especially with VDOT being responsible for the maintenance, it's not reliably maintained, and those grass buffers tend to get overgrown, which effectively makes the sidewalks even narrower. Another comment about the buffer, if possible, if VDOT will agree to it, if it would be great if you could use some sort of native ground cover instead of grass, and that wouldn't require mowing or maintenance, or at least a lot less maintenance. I have another comment about the ADA curb ramps. Even in the most recent phases of this series of sidewalk projects on Telegraph, the newer curb ramps, I was surprised to see, often are seem to be oriented towards the car travel lanes. So when you are rolling off the sidewalk, you're effectively like channeled into traffic, into car traffic, if you're not, being really careful to revert or turn away, back away from traffic. So if you could perhaps look at some of the placements of those curb ramps to make sure people who are using mobility devices or on bikes are rolling out into the street. And my last comment is about the crosswalks. I'm glad to see some crosswalks being placed on the side streets, but I didn't see anything about crosswalks across Telegraph. I don't think there are any crosswalks across Telegraph except at the very few signalized intersections that there are. So it just seems like there ought to be some places where people could cross to get across Telegraph from one side to the other. And those are my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So regarding your first question, the grass buffer, removing the grass buffer will not be per standard. The standard concrete sidewalk typical section includes the 4-foot wide buffer in addition to the sidewalk. Reasons for the grass buffer is to install signage. Again, the only sections we do not have the buffer is the constraint sections, and those are the sections we actually would need to submit design waivers to VDOT to get those approved. So I don't think we can eliminate the grass buffer strip in these sections, in the non-constrained sections. Regarding your second question, the current plans do show the curb ramps being aligned in the direction of the crosswalk. So yes, you are correct. The current curb ramps that are built are not in the direction of the crosswalk. They are, like you mentioned, in the direction of the intersection, but we are following the latest VDOT guidelines, which require the curb ramps to be in the direction of the crosswalk. So that is shown so the curb ramps we're showing on the plans do show them aligned with the crosswalk. So that will take care of this issue. And I'm sorry, what was your third question again?
Also about crosswalks, but crossing Telegraph Road, not the side streets.
So we avoided including, for now, I mean, this is just a conceptual design. We will look further into the crosswalks when we move forward. But based on a quick analysis and even the site visit that we had a couple of weeks ago, including unsignalized crosswalks across Telegraph may not be the best option because of the high speed the vehicles travel on this road. So this would have to be studied, but I think it's not recommended at the location of this project to include crosswalks across Telegraph Road. Sean and Sayed, you're welcome to add more if you see.
Where there is opportunity, I would add, if there is an opportunity to put a crosswalk, we'll look at that, we'll consider it. But knowing that there is no facility on the other side, I think we have a few locations where we would have that potential, but definitely we will consider that comment. So the next person is Mara Kaiser Bronger. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Please unmute yourself and go ahead and provide comment, question. I think they dropped out.
Yeah, we cannot hear you. Can you try again?
Yeah. Well, Mara, can you hear us?
She dropped out temporarily, is
yeah.
joined back in, but she needs to be approved to speak again.
Yeah, I did. And so I have allowed your mic, so you can unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. Go ahead, unmute yourself, Mara, and speak. I do not have the capability to unmute you. You would have to unmute yourself. Well, I guess in the meantime, maybe until they figure out, Mohammed, can you give the directions for people who have called with phone again? How they can raise their hand and unmute themselves or mute?
Yes, if you're on the phone, please press *5 to raise your hand, and we will enable your microphone and call on you to ask your question. So *5 if you're on the phone. If you're on here, please raise your hand.
So Mara, I don't know if you have, if you can hear us. I have activated your mic, but you have to unmute yourself to speak. In the meantime, I guess we can go with Bonnie and Sean McMahon. Let me allow your mic. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. Bonnie and Sean, do you guys, do you have, can you unmute yourself as? Mohammed,
Yes,
would you have the capability to unmute them?
Yeah, I'm going to try to turn off that setting, and so everybody can. So I'm allowing the mics for everyone now.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, looks like it's working.
Okay.
I just allowed the mics for.
Okay, I think Bonnie and Sean McMahon, I think they have unmuted, so please go ahead and speak.
This is Bonnie McMahon. I wanted to support Alexis Glenn's comment that there is no proposed crosswalk across Telegraph Road due to the high volume, the high speed of vehicles that you have noted. People cross that road every day anyway. So I think it would be a very prudent step to research at least one crosswalk across Telegraph Road. I understand that there is a high volume of traffic on that road. When I met Mo last week, he noticed it as well, even though you have marked here that Telegraph Road is a minor arterial. I think we can all agree that it is a very, very busy road. Despite that, people still walk down Wilton, cross Telegraph Road, and walk onto the other side across the creek. So that does still occur. So it would be prudent to assess whether you can put a crosswalk across Telegraph.
That will be studied when we go further into the design. So we will look into that. That's something we can look at when we continue the design to 60% after this phase.
Okay.
It was just like, it was just based on a quick, like at the site visit, like when I went there, I saw the car speed a lot. So my quick judgment was not to add a crosswalk, but again, that has to be done through an analysis. I mean, we will have to go through analysis and determine if that's allowable by VDOT, and we'll work on it. I mean, that's something we can look at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
we'll
also,
definitely consider that comment.
I also received your other questions, Bonnie, through email. I can respond to those questions via email, or if you would like to ask them here, that's fine as well.
Via email is fine. And Mo, I invite you and anyone else within the project to please come visit with us so we can go through the proposal on site. That would certainly provide us with a lot of clarification regarding the proposed easements and how exactly raising the level of the land next to the road for the sidewalk will affect our property, and just the changes, like we had talked about the brick walls. But at any rate, you and I can schedule a time for you to be able to come out and take a look at that.
Will do. Sounds good.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Please lower your hand. So I'm gonna again give the opportunity to Mara Kaiser. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, go ahead. I think now you can go ahead and speak.
Now. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the thoughtful work that has gone into this proposal. I was unaware of it until Supervisor Lusk's office sent out notice about this phase in this meeting. It's wonderful. It's exciting work. I think that walkable communities aren't just safer, they're healthier, more connected, and just a more vibrant place to live. As people are finding their way up Florence and Schaefer Lane, which is an adjacency to Telegraph, and I'll explain why this is so important to this project in a moment. We have the opportunity, I'm seeing more and more people walking and biking, which is really terrific. And I think that the Telegraph to Florence, to Schaefer, to Poag, to get to Aldi, and the new coffee shop and the Korean barbecue that's opening is going to become even busier than it is now. So my question is, what analysis has been done about the increased pedestrian traffic that would and biking traffic that will probably be flowing onto Florence and then probably up Schaefer? The big reason I bring this up is because there's a serious safety concern related to the bridge at Florence. There is when you're exiting Florence onto Telegraph, there's a right turn lane, there's a left turn lane, and then incoming traffic, and there's no place for a pedestrian or a bicycler to get around the traffic. I walk that way quite often. I had to hop out of the way of a speeding car the other night with my dog not to get hit, and I ran into a tree that had fallen down. So it's a very narrow bridge, and I'm concerned about pedestrian safety because one would assume that with the addition of this phase, we would see even more increase in pedestrian traffic. So that's an adjacency that I wanted to make sure was raised because it doesn't sound like a cheap fix. And I recognize that budget is tight. And so I wanted to know what analysis you had done there. In addition to that, there's a lot more traffic with a new, very active church right across Telegraph from Florence. And the traffic sometimes can be really difficult to navigate. So from a pedestrian and bicycler perspective, I want to make sure that those safety concerns are analyzed, addressed, and have some good solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe we have done an analysis at that location. The current scope for this project was done several years ago, and it only included the scope that's currently that we currently discussed in this presentation. We will look into that and discuss it internally. And if you could please send that as well, send your question to us using the online survey tool or via email to myself, that would be something we will look at. but we do not have an analysis done at that intersection.
Okay. I think it would be really important. It's a very busy intersection and it seems to be getting busier. And so balancing pedestrian safety with this project that I'm very much in favor of, I think is a smart use of time so that we can make sure that there are safety measures in place.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind lowering your hand. Next person is Kevin Maddock. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. Please unmute yourself and speak. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm speaking in support of what Mara just said. We've had several requests over a period of years to have something done about the traffic problems at the end of Florence Lane. And usually they're dismissed with the sense of, well, there haven't been enough accidents there to warrant a stoplight or other traffic control measures. So I'm glad to hear Mara's comment and to speak in favor of that the analysis be looked at again, because those of us who drive Florence every day, just as she said, find it harder and harder to get out, especially during the school year. Part two of my comment is, I would hope that you would make your traffic study during the school year and during the morning and evening school rush, so that your statisticians can see just how crazy it can get, especially if you're trying to turn left from Florence to go south on Telegraph Road. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. When we do studies, yes, we will. When we do traffic studies, we do them usually at the peak times. So we will do it when there is school time, and we will consider your suggestion as well. And we highly recommend you also emailing us your question for further studies. Go ahead, say it. Sorry.
So I just wanted to say, usually for sidewalk projects or pedestrian projects, we normally don't do traffic analysis. If you're improving the intersection, then yes, we would have to do traffic analysis. But in this case, as you mentioned, we'll look at that and see what the numbers are and what VDOT would accept and what is warranted at this location. So that's something that we can add to our scope. All right.
Yes, Sayed.
Anyone else? If you have a question, you can raise your hand. Actually, you can unmute and then speak. So I don't see anybody raising their hand, Mohammed. So
Okay, well, thank you all. Thank you all for attending. This concludes our meeting on the Telegraph Road Walkway Phase 2. A recording of the meeting will be available on the Telegraph Roadway Walkway Phase 2 webpage in the next day or so. Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time and participation. We will stop the recording and end the session. Thank you very much, all.
thank you.
You as
Thank
well.
you.
Bye-bye.